This week was genuinely a lot. Timestamps are in the description, so jump to whatever you care about. Let's get into it. Starting with MiniMax M3, which launched on June 1st and is honestly one of the most interesting model releases this year. The headline number is the context window, 1 million tokens. That means you can feed it an entire book, a full code base, or hundreds of PDFs at once. But what makes this special is how they made that possible without it becoming ridiculously expensive. They built something called MSA or Minimax Sparse Attention. The way normal AI models work, the more text you give them, the cost grows by the square of the length. So longer context gets expensive very fast. MSA breaks that pattern by only reading the most important parts of the context instead of everything at once. At 1 million tokens, M3's cost per token is 1/20th of the previous model M2, and the speed jump is real, more than 9 times faster in the first processing stage, more than 15 times faster in the output stage. That is a serious engineering move, not just a marketing claim. The coding numbers back it up. M3 scores 59% on SWE Bench Pro, which is a tough benchmark that tests whether a model can actually fix real software bugs. That beats GPT 5.5 and Gemini 3.1 Pro. It sits just below Claude Opus 4.7. For computer use, meaning the model controlling a desktop like a human would, it scored 70% on OS World Verified. MiniMax also shared a real experiment. They gave M3 a prize-winning research paper from ICLR 2025 and asked it to reproduce all the experiments with no help. It ran for 12 hours, made 18 code commits, generated 23 charts, and finished the job completely on its own. Another test had it optimizing a GPU kernel from scratch. After 24 hours and 147 attempts, it improved the hardware usage from 7.6% to 71.3%, a 9.4 times speed up. Most other models stopped making progress after the first 30 tries. Only Claude Opus 4.7 kept going alongside M3. The model is live on their API right now, and the open weights are coming within 10 days. Now, let's talk about StepFun Step 3.7 Plus, which came out a few days before that. This one is a 198 billion parameter model. But here is the trick with these newer models. It only uses about 11 billion parameters at a time during inference. Think of it like a big team of specialists where only the right experts show up for each job. So you get the knowledge of a huge model, but at the running cost of a much smaller one. It also supports images and video inputs, which the previous version did not have at all. And it can handle 256,000 tokens of context at up to 400 tokens per second. On SWE Bench Pro, it scores 56.26%, up from 51.3% in the last version. The biggest story is something they call advisor mode. Normally, when you run a coding agent, it uses the same expensive model for every single step, even the easy ones. Advisor mode lets the small flash model handle most of the work and only calls in a bigger model when it hits a hard decision point like planning or recovering from failures. The result? On SWE Bench Verified, it reaches 76.3%, which is 97% of what Claude Opus 4.6 gets. But the cost drops from $1.76 per task down to $0.19 per task. That is a 9 times cost reduction for nearly the same result. For companies running coding agents at scale, that math is very hard to ignore. On the research side, it hit 71.68% on research rubrics, which beats GPT 5.5 at 61.5%. And on phone task automation, it scores 61.87%, ahead of Kimi K2.6 but just behind Gemini 3 Plus. The model is open source under Apache 2.0 and weights are already on Hugging Face. NVIDIA dropped something big at Computex this week too. Jensen Huang announced Nemotron 3 Ultra and the specs are massive, 550 billion total parameters with about 55 billion active at any given time, making it a mixture of experts model like Step 3.7 Plus. The key number is the Intelligence Index score, 48, which makes it the most capable US open weights model right now. The next closest US open model is Gemma 431B at 39, which is a big gap. Now, to be fair, the leading open weights model overall is China's Kimi K2.6 at 54. So the Chinese open source frontier is still ahead. But here is where Nemotron 3 Ultra does something special: speed. On the pre-release inference endpoint, it served over 300 tokens per second. Chinese models at the same intelligence levels, including DeepSeek and Kimi, are generally running at 50 to 100 tokens per second on available infrastructure. That is a 3x to 6x speed advantage. For anyone building applications where latency actually matters, that gap is huge. The model is being released with NVFV4 quantization support for even faster inference on NVIDIA hardware. And finally, the story that developers are most upset about this week: GitHub Copilot switched to token-based billing on June 1st, and it did not go well. The old system was a flat monthly subscription. The new system charges you based on how many tokens you actually use. In theory, that sounds fair. In practice, some developers are reporting their cost going from $29 a month to $750. One person shared a screenshot showing a jump from $50 to $3,000. Some developers who use Copilot as a focused tool say their cost barely moved. The people seeing enormous bills tend to be running long agentic sessions or doing heavy vibe coding, where they let the AI iterate endlessly on large code bases. The criticism that stings the most is this: Microsoft spent years encouraging people to use Copilot freely and aggressively, build the product around unlimited failing usage, and now flip the model on everyone. One Redditor put it directly: the only one at fault here is Microsoft. They built it this way and encouraged this usage. TechCrunch and others have noted that the economics of the old flat rate model must have been brutal for Microsoft, which probably explains the change. Either way, a lot of smaller developers are now reconsidering whether to keep their subscriptions. So that is where we will wrap it up. A lot happened this week, and honestly, the pace is not slowing down. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let me know which of these updates you are most excited about. Make sure you are subscribed, hit the like button, and I will see you in the next one.